Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Your Relationship With podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Snow, and today we're talking about your relationship with doing nothing. And the funny part is the reason that it's just me on this episode and not an interview like it usually is because I did nothing. I have like 5 episodes recorded already, interviews that I need to get over to my editor. And I kept putting it off and never got it over to him. And now it's Sunday night and we need an episode tomorrow. And here I am. And so I thought, why not talk about my own experiences that I have had recently with doing nothing? And the funny part about saying it that way is because my brain wants to tell me that I've been doing nothing. Although if I actually look at what I've been doing a lot of things. And so this is the first lesson is don't believe all the stories that your brain tells you. Our brains always have this story, especially as entrepreneurs, of you're not doing enough. You should be doing more. And I'm not exactly sure where that comes from other than the pressure that we have as entrepreneurs, right? It's like if nobody else is getting clients for us, if nobody else is bringing money in, if no one else is running the business like it is when you have a job, then who is going to do it? No one. So if I'm not doing it, it's not happening, right? I was just talking to a friend of mine who's also an entrepreneur. She's an event planner, and she just had a major surgery, and she's really struggling with just laying there and recovering and not working. And we were talking about why is this so hard? And that is part of it, is that we have this you're not doing enough, you should be doing more story that goes over and over and over and over again. And sometimes all we need to do is just check that story and be like, is that actually true? Am I really doing nothing? Am I really not doing enough? How would I know if I was doing enough? Because enough doesn't actually exist. So if you are struggling with this feeling of like, I should be doing more, I'm not doing enough, that's the first thing I want to suggest to you, is to just check in with that story that your brain is telling you and whether or not it's true. I also want to talk about this pressure that we have as entrepreneurs to always be on. There is a societal expectation of us, but there's also a self-imposed pressure that we have to always be productive, right? We talk a lot about this. I have a friend who coaches on purpose and what is your purpose? And is your purpose really the thing that you do, or is your purpose your being? And I feel like in our society and in entrepreneurship in particular, there is this idea that you have to always be productive in order to be successful. And that's actually not true. There's a great book by Kate Northrup called Do Less, where she talks about giving yourself a break and giving yourself time to not be productive and really just feel into what it is that your body and your mind and your business need. And that's not always pushing and doing more and having more and creating more, right? So we want to try to figure out how to let go of this pressure. And that is one of the things that I am actively working on right now, especially as a leader of multiple communities. It feels like I have to be the one to always be on, to always be happy and providing and giving value and creating content. And I think part of the reason that the Powerful Women Rising community has been so successful and why we've been able to attract so many amazing women is because I tend to show up with more authenticity than a lot of people, in the sense that I'm like, hi, I'm a real human. I just spilled my drink all over the place. I haven't done a podcast episode in 2 weeks because I had ridiculous food poisoning. I have foster kittens who have been sick 98,000 times, and all I do is clean the carpets. And, oh yeah, by the way, my computer didn't work for the last 3 days. I had to do a factory reset, which meant I had to start all over with everything. And oh, by the way, I was about to record this podcast and I realized my microphone didn't work. So, that is life. And you have to just accept that that is life and that is being a human. And just because you're an entrepreneur, just because you're a business owner, doesn't mean that you stop being a human. There are a lot of misconceptions about what it takes to succeed as an entrepreneur, especially as a woman, because a lot of times we feel like we need to be going twice as hard, twice as fast, working twice as much in order to have success. But the truth is that the entrepreneurs who are most successful are the ones who know how to also feed into their humanness, to allow themselves to take a sick day when they're sick, to allow themselves to say, okay, I could make myself crazy recording a podcast episode at midnight the night before. It's not midnight, by the way, it's 4:00, but still midnight the night before to make sure that I have a podcast episode out, or I could just go to bed. And I could just accept the fact that if there's not a new podcast episode out tomorrow morning, everything is going to be okay. And part of that too is being practical with yourself when it comes to the story that you're telling yourself about client expectations. We have this fear of disappointing our clients or disappointing our customers if we're not constantly working. And we have this fear that whatever the thing that I didn't do was, that was the thing that was going to make all the difference in my business, right? If I had put a podcast episode out last week, somebody would have heard it, that person would have hired me, and I would have more clients and more money than I do right now. That's what our brain likes to tell us about anything we miss out on, right? If you decide not to go to that networking event, if you decide not to post on Instagram all week, whatever it is, your brain tells you that's the one thing that was going to make the difference in your success. And the reality is, it isn't. There is no client out there who was like, man, I was really going to buy her thing, but she didn't post on Instagram for the last 2 days. Or, oh, I was thinking about hiring that coach, but she didn't put out a new podcast episode yesterday, so I don't think I'm going to, right? We don't think like that when we are deciding products to buy and services to invest in. So why do we put it on ourselves that our clients think that way? Because they actually don't. Our clients value specific things in business relationships, and it's not constancy, it's not perfection, it's not having someone who goes nonstop. It is having someone that they can trust in your position. It is having products that are consistently delivering what they say they're going to. It is having a coach who shows up for them and delivers exactly what she said she was going to, right? But it doesn't mean they're expecting you to be superhuman. Your worth is not tied to your productivity, and your client knows that. And with some work, you also can know that. Your worth is not tied to your productivity. So the fact that I didn't put out a podcast episode yesterday and that I don't have one ready for you, well, I will in about 60 seconds, but that I don't have one ready for you right now has nothing to do with what I know about business strategy. It has nothing to do with how I show up in the world 98% of the time. It has nothing to do with why people are drawn to me and want to be in the Powerful Women Rising community. It has nothing to do with any of that because my worth is not tied to my productivity. And along with that is accepting that there are tasks that can wait and that don't require our immediate attention. This is very hard for me. And I think part of it is my neurodivergence, but part of it also is just being a human being and an entrepreneur is like everything is emergency. Everything needs to be done right now. I always have a million things that need to be done today. And the world is going to end if they're not done. And when I really sit down and think about them, I'm like, okay, what actually has to be done today? Like, what is an actual deadline that it's going to be a serious, real problem if it's not done today? And when I look at it that way, the schedule looks a little different. The to-do list breaks down in a different way when I just check that story of urgency and admit that there are things that can wait and that this story my brain is telling me about all the things that have to be done right this second is not actually true. So before I wrap up this episode, I just want to give a couple recommendations to you. If you're listening to this and you're like, oh my gosh, I have these same problems. I was just going through this recently. I also feel like I need to have all the things done all the time and that they need to be done perfect. I'm going to suggest a couple podcast episodes for you. Episode number 1 was Your Relationship with Fun, and I interviewed Megan Conter, the founder of the Dames. And that is a really, really powerful episode because we talk about why it is so important to incorporate fun into your business and how that actually helps you be more successful. Same thing with episode number 8, my interview with Jasmine Rice about your relationship with self-care. Super good. And one of my favorites is episode number 9 with Jenna Banks, where she talks about your relationship with your power container. And she talks about it almost like a cookie jar where you are either adding to your power container or you are taking out of your power container, and how when you continue to do things over and over again that take out of your power container without doing things that put in your power container, that is how you burn out. And when you burn out, none of us are the better for it. You're not, your business is not, and your clients are not. The last one I want to suggest to you is episode number 34, Your Relationship with Time Management with Jessica Milheiser. She is a brilliant woman and brilliant about so many things. I've worked with her several times on several different things in my business, but that episode about time management is really, really good. And she gives some actionable tips to help you keep things in order, to help you prioritize what are the things that actually need to be done right this second, and to make sure that you leave room in your schedule for self-care, for fun, for doing nothing. Because your relationship with doing nothing is just as important as your relationship with doing something. I'm telling myself this just as much as I'm telling you this. All right, I'm going to wrap this up. I hope this episode was helpful for you. I am going to get my other episodes over to my editor right now. So next Monday, we will be back in business. But you know what? If we're not, it's okay. Everything's going to be fine. All right, ladies, have a great week. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Your Relationship With podcast. If you liked what you heard, we would love for you to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes and leave us a review. It helps more awesome women just like you find our podcast on iTunes. If you'd like to connect with Melissa Snow or Powerful Women Rising further, feel free to follow us on Instagram. We are at www.instagram.com/powerfulwomenrising. For more information about the Powerful Women Rising community, click the link in the show notes.